This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it, man, I know it, I know.
There was a conversation I had with a friend in Texas where we were at one of the other card houses and I was playing 50, 100 there. And this place is a madhouse, right? Like, it's just insane. And I'm getting these texts saying like, I can't take this anymore. Like, there's no such thing as ranges in this game. I just saw 9-4 off get 4-bet, yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking like, right, what's the problem? And I tweeted out a picture of a 9-way all-in pre.
Yeah. I saw
a 9-way all-in pre at 1-3. Like, 9 good hands have never been dealt out at the same time in the history of poker.
Right.
And like they're all just rocketing it off, right? So they get a 9-way all-in pre where it wasn't like pre-discussed of like we're gonna run a cold hand. No. Everybody willfully decided to say YOLO pot odds and got it in. Okay. In that thread, a lot of people were sitting there saying like, this is just bingo at this point. Like, I want to play a game where people are playing real poker and like this is bullshit, man. I didn't come to the casino to gamble. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Yeah, when did we use that? Yeah.
I love finding equilibrium, but you've been watching too many of his goddamn videos. Like, forget staying balanced. If people are in a casino and are willfully giving it away, where 9 human beings decide that they're going to put it all in, and one of them has kings and it's the best hand, no one even had aces. Nobody even had aces.
Is it our fault though? Is it the training community's fault? Because like,
listen, like at the end of the day, there are 2 major segregations in this community, right? Just like every other major competitive arena. There is the upper echelon nosebleeds elite that you'll see in all sports, you'll see in chess, you'll see in any mind game, poker, whatever the case may be. And the game is played incredibly different at that level than it is in your general amateur arena, right?
Yeah.
A baseball game is played far differently when you have 2 MLB teams competing against one another than it would be at the D3 college level, period. And the D3 college level is going to be a hell of a lot further ahead than you're going to see at a little league game. Well, in poker, these things aren't segregated by age and weight and physicality and all these other things, right? It's just a matter of what lineup gets curated together that's going to dictate how the game plays. So, yes, to some degree, when we're always harping on what is optimal at equilibrium versus a perfect opponent, we are kind of pushing a narrative that is just false to reality. The fact of the matter is, poker has never been healthier than it is right now. And it's because of games like Texas, where there are 9 people going all in and range construction just isn't a fucking thing. I say this all the time to students whenever they come and they complain about like being too much action or getting beat down by aggressive players. It's like, you're too goddamn risk averse. If I offered you $250,000 tomorrow to beat Zynga poker over 100,000 hands, you would find a fucking strategy that did it. Period. Right. Because it's not like the game is unbeatable based off the fact that no one cares, right? You care. Yeah. You're incentivized to find a way to win. I'm giving you $250,000 to win over 100,000 hands. You have to win 1 big blind over 100,000 hands. Develop a strategy. The 2 most complicated scenarios that people find themselves in these open public games is 1, c-betting out of position, and 2, playing multi-way pots. Period. Yeah. Right? And why? Because 100% of the training material is you're in position versus a big blind defense. Or you're out of position in a 3-bet pot. Yeah. Right. So either you're out of position as the defender, you're always either out of position as the defender, or you're in position as the aggressor. The only time that changes is if like you're the small blind 3-better. And we have some study on how that plays. But generally speaking, it's geared towards 100 big blinds where SPR is like 5. And it's not that complicated to come up with strategies at that point. We need to be able to promote strategies to our community that say, this is what you do in an uncapped 1-3 game when you're opening under the gun and you face a button defense and SPR is 30.
Right.
This is how you construct a check raise strategy and a c-bet strategy, especially when that range is capped and wide as fuck and they have certain tendencies. You know, it's like, you can't take the meta out of live poker, man. It's a really big element. If we recognize that a player to our left is playing 60% of hands, and we are in a position to construct a range. Should we then just continue with a quote unquote GTO opening range? Well, first of all, no, because the equilibrium has changed. He's not responding game theory optimally, right? So yes, if we went ahead with that range, we would make money because it's just naturally winning. And it might even be winning slightly more due to the fact that he has too many hands. However, the easiest way to exemplify this is if we have an opening range, sorry. If we are to the left of somebody who's opening 60% under the gun, and under the gun one is supposed to 3-bet, let's say 13.5% versus an under the gun opening range, right? If we know he's opening 60%, are we still only supposed to 3-bet 13.5?
No, of course not.
It'd be fucking insane, right?
Right.
It would just be clinically insane to let a guy open over half the hands he's dealt in first position and just like look at a hand like king queen off and muck it.
No, that's crazy.
It would be nuts. So of course you're going to expand your ranges. That's absolutely the path to profit. You know, you just don't want to go wider than they're going. You don't. If they have 7 deuce, you don't want to have 7-3. You want to have 7-6. You know, like playable stuff.
And I think people take a lot of what you say, like one of the things, like they take what you say like super literally, like right. They're just like, oh well, you wouldn't 3-bet them with 5-7 suited because you have 8 people behind. It's like yeah, we get what Don't be that
right.
person.
But like I'm gonna 3-bet them with Jack 10.
Right, exactly. Like it's you want to 3-bet them with hands that are going to perform decently well, and also like a little bit of blockers that like won't get you 4-bet behind you. You know, like something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you have a player like Phil Hellmuth. You know he always throws rock, right? Like 100% rock, and you're like a perfect GTO bot that is just like throwing rock, paper, and scissors randomized at a perfect frequency, right? 33%. It's like who wins?
Well,
it's like
you know the answer to that, right?
You just break even.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's the beauty of rock, paper, scissors.
Right?
Well, there is no the only winning counter the only winning counter strategy in rock, paper, scissors is an exploitative one.
Right.
Right.
But that's crazy that the person that's just like literally just showing you their strategy, like rock, 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 and the other person's like playing the perfect strat is just breaking even.
Mm-hmm.
It's like to the brain that's kind of like befuddling, where it's like, wait, this guy's strategy is bad and this guy's strategy is good, but there's nobody's winning.
Right.
You know, so it's like so clearly.
It's a lack of capitalization, right? You just have to re-exploit in those situations. You are incentivized to move off of equilibrium when somebody tips their hand. And that's something I think people totally forget. It's like, yes, it's very important to understand what equilibrium strategies are. But when somebody divulges to you what their strategy is, right? They write it down on a piece of paper and they say, look, here's my strategy and it's not perfect. You are heavily incentivized to find the counter that maximizes against that strategy, even if it leaves you open to other counter exploits, right? It just becomes a game of cat and mouse of who's moving first. What people, I guess, like fail to understand about the chaos of this game is that the more hands that you can play without damaging your bottom line, the more volume you're able to get in against people who are losing. So if somebody is losing X amount of big blinds per 100, and you're able to play X plus 1, or sorry, not X plus 1, but like Y plus 1 more hands than your counterpart has a comparable win rate, your win rate is just going to slightly go up, right?
Yeah. I think that's the legendary Garrett Adelstein strategy.
Yeah, but with that comes a lot more variance because the more hands that you're adding, obviously the weaker your range becomes and the more bluff catchers you have to parse through whenever you arrive at these tougher decision points. So, you know, there's a lot of me calling and losing. And that's just a function of the game.
How are you approaching these games where it's like, it's super splashy and you have these hands that are good 3-bets in theory or maybe in practice, but you're not getting a fold pre. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, of course not. The thing is like the reason why people are risk averse and don't want to 3-bet in that scenario is because of the equity threshold necessary to play a big pot. So when you have Queen Jack suited, you're going to need more than one pair to play an all-in pot whenever your 400 blinds effective, right? In theory, in a vacuum where people are constructing with like reasonable ranges. But in practice, Any game that you're in where it goes raise, call, call, and you have the opportunity to squeeze queen jack 400 blinds deep, it's going to be pretty effective because the whole reason that it went raise, call, call is because people play pre-flop trashy. So they have too many hands and they're very unprotected. Even if they're trapping with hands that dominate you, they still have to play deep SPR spots post with hands that don't connect that well outside of making bluff catchers. So even if they're calling with hands like ace queen, ace jack suited, like whatever, they still have to outflop you and hold on for multiple barrels, right? So largely, this is
Not
why...
outflop you, but like hit.
Yeah, flop enough equity. Yes, flop enough equity to continue. So like largely speaking, this is why you see so many of these wild hands from me specifically, is because I understand how the equity threshold shifts when ranges aren't malleable, right? When ranges are just too wide to begin with, and then they remain inelastic because people are playing bingo and they're just trying to flop something and then hold on, what ultimately happens is you get to leverage the last bet. And one pair, especially when you have the perception of being a maniac, just goes through the fucking roof. You just get to play like 800 and 1,000 big blind pots with aces because somebody flopped top pair and couldn't ever fold. Like I saw so many 50K pots this week playing 50, 100 where the money went in on the river on a queen high board in a 3-bet pot. And the 3-better just had aces. And the caller just had like a hand like queen 10. So you don't want to be the passive one with the bluff catcher. You would much rather be the one pressing the action. You don't want to be that fifth caller when it goes raise, call, call, and you have queen jack suited because you'll never flop enough equity where you can win the pot through aggression. All that will happen is you'll flop enough equity that you can call multiple streets and hope to be good by the time you arrive at showdown. But in that same process, you're allowing many other players to realize their equity in the fullest. If you trust that you're a better post-flop player than everybody else who is literally not thinking beyond the fact of I have X amount of equity or I don't, therefore I call or I don't, then you are just wasting your time. Just fold pre.